Okay, 12 minutes to talk. A lot of people don't know this. I feel it's fitting since I got this tank top on and seeing that I'm a little muscled up today. Um, you know, there are a few things that proves this. Christ was a carpenter. When you're born in those times, you tend to follow the trades of your father. Joseph was a carpenter. Christ was a carpenter, the son of the carpenter, right? That's what they would call him. To be a carpenter in those days, you would have to develop a certain type of strength that would make you stronger than the average man that was living at that time. Especially when you couple the fact that Christ was a perfect man. And this was no coincidence because Christ, I'm going to get into it more about why Christ would have been a very strong man and the reason why he would have needed to be this way. So let me get into that part now. The prophecy was that it was God's desire to crush Christ. It was God's desire to beat Christ, to pummel him, basically, right? Because he is going to bear the sins of the world upon his shoulders. Kind of literally, you know. You see how, okay, no, let me not get into that. That'll be a bit, this video would be way too long if I was getting into that. When there was to give you proof of this, you know the world's strongest man competition where people come from around the world, mostly Europeans. These are like the really strong people of the world, because the cold weather toughens your body. Now in that elite level of competition, everyone has been training since they were young. And not only have they been training since they were young, but they already have the genetic advantage, right? So a person like me can't start training from when I was young to try and compete in the world's strongest man competition. No, I would need to already be blessed with certain type of genetics to be able to compete there. Couple that with me training from since I was young, right? Or with them training from since they were young. These are people that are like, we talk about their tendon strength is ridiculous, their muscle strength is ridiculous, it's just through the roof. But there was a man that came to compete amongst them. And this man, not only was he not genetically born or gifted to be among the strongest men in the world, but he also had not been training since he was young. And he had not been powerlifting or doing world strongman type competition or type lifts to prepare himself for the world's strongest man kind of competitions. All he was doing was carpentry. Yeah, he was just a carpenter. That's all he did. So he developed a certain type of tendon strength and grip strength that gave him the advantage to be able to be able to compete amongst the world's strongest men who already were born with the advantages of being strong, the tendon strength and the muscle strength that comes with it, the brain muscle connection and barrier. They crossed that. And they were training for that since they were young. And here comes a man who is not gifted. All he does is carpentry, and he's able to compete with them on the elite level. I will find out his name, and I would put his name in the description below, so you know that this is the case. This is factual. So this is what carpentry does to the body. So if I was to be a carpenter, I would be a lot, 10 times stronger than I am now. If you were to be a carpenter, you would be 10 times stronger than you are now. Now Christ, being a perfect man, and mind you, okay, now this carpenter who trained in the world's strongest, who competed in the world's strongest man competition, I don't know what position he placed in, but the fact that he was able to qualify to compete is, come on, remember all the things look at all the things that are counting against him, and he's still able to qualify to compete amongst them. He didn't win, but it's a testament to what carpentry does. What was I going to say? Right, I remember. Dang, I forgot again. That's crazy. Okay, now I remember. He's a carpenter in today's age with all the tools and accessories and machines we have to aid us in being a carpenter. Mind you, he didn't have Christ didn't have these advantages. He didn't have these tools, these machines. He had to do everything through muscle. He just muscled through everything. So if someone who's a carpenter today, with all the tools and power tools we have at our disposal to help us with carpentry today, if a person like that today can develop that type of strength, tensile strength, to compete in the World's Strongest Man competition, imagine a carpenter back then. Okay, so like I said, this how I look right now is fitting for this video. I just went outside, came back. My girlfriend says, "Oh, you look good." So I was like, "All right, well, let me make a video to give glory to Christ and his Father." So Christ was muscled. Okay, now mind you, he wasn't wearing tank tops and he wasn't wearing tight-fitting clothing. He was wearing, clothing that didn't reveal much skin. So you would not know the type of strength that Christ had, but he was very, very strong, dense man, solid. And we know this was God's intention, to make him this strong and durable, because the type of beating and pummeling that he was and the scourging that he was going to receive from the Romans before he was put impaled on the torture stake and hung, the type of beating he was going to receive was going to be out of this world. I don't even believe Passion of the Christ does it justice, even though some people fainted when they saw the Passion of the Christ, the movie. I don't even think that does it justice, what Christ received, because it was God's desire to crush him. Do you know what that means? He's not angry at his son. No, he's angry at the world. And he wants his son to bear the sins of the world. It's like the scourging that God wants to give us, he's basically put it upon his son. So no wonder Christ was sweating, hematosis or whatever, when you go through so much stress that your sweat turns into blood. That's an actual medical condition. It's extremely rare. Christ went through that because he knew what he was going to go through. It's kind of simple when you know God lives to die for him. It's not that difficult when you know he's there. You're not going to fear death. But when you know you're going to go through a certain type of pain, to go through that pain barrier is not easy. That was what Christ did not want to go through. So he was begging his Father, please let this cup pass from me. But let not my will be done, let your will be done. So he submitted to his Father. So, but in order for you to be able to bear that type of beating and not pass out, because if a person goes through a certain amount of pain, their body automatically shuts down because the pain is too much, it's unbearable, so they pass out. Christ did not pass out. And the type of beating he received was out of this world. And in order for him to be able to bear the brunt of that punishment, he would need to have a certain type of strength, mental strength, that comes with being a carpenter, a builder, manufacturer with wood. In those days, without the power tools, right? And the type of body strength and tensile strength and durability that comes with that only carpentry can give a man. Really, we're all supposed to be carpenters. We're all supposed to be building our own houses for our wives and families, and our stalls for our animals. And if we were living in the way God intended for humanity to live, all men would be like this. But Christ was through the roof, and he had to be this way in order to bear the brunt of the punishment that God wanted him to go through, and which he in fact did go through. So Christ was not no feeble, weakling man. No, he was the man of all mans. And no man, I don't even believe, will ever come to his type of durability, because he was specifically crafted for that purpose. And God prepared a body for Christ. So this type of body that Christ had was out of this world. It wasn't a type of body in terms of facial features where he was extremely handsome, because even there was a passage that kind of hints that he wasn't that attractive. So that he would understand those who go through the pain of not being attractive, because it's not a pleasurable thing to not be an attractive person in the world, male or female, So he didn't have the type of beauty that would cause people to desire him. And people looked at him as someone who was crushed, like someone who was miserable, even though he wasn't. But the type of punishment that he was going to go through would cause him to be perceived as such. So a body God prepared for him. He was born as a carpenter. It was God's desire to crush him, which God did in fact crush him. through the Romans, the punishment that he received, but no bones in his body was crushed. Because remember, when you sacrifice a lamb, no bones in his body must be crushed, because that's a foreshadow of Christ. So no bones in his body was crushed, but he was beaten severely. So he had to be extremely strong to be able to go through that. So I felt that this would be a good time for me to make that video. I don't think anybody's ever made a video about that fact. I don't even think people even connect those dots. So yeah, hopefully you got some good message from this. And if there's anything else that I probably missed, I'll just put it in the description below, but I doubt it. All right, peace.